All right, hey everyone. So we're gonna do a little bit of a Canvas tutorial. Just to preface a couple things here. This is gonna be from the perspective of someone who has access to Canvas, maybe through your district or whatever educational institution you're with, but may not necessarily have ever used it. Maybe you haven't ever actually gone into Canvas and tried anything. So this is gonna be a very from the basics, first time you ever jump into Canvas, how to get a few things going where you can start using with students, have something um, effective, have something productive, something that works, but isn't going to be too in detail. So if you're looking for a bigger in-depth, maybe I'll make that video at another time. But this is going to be a pretty basic level tutorial of Canvas. So just to preface a little bit, I am by no means a Canvas expert. I don't work for Canvas at all. I work with an education consortium as a program development and training specialist, generally specifically for math teachers. I was a math teacher myself for about 8 years in the district. And a couple of those years, I happen to have used Canvas in my classroom. So really my experience from Canvas is all self-taught, something that I did learn pretty quickly about Canvas. I thought the name Canvas was a great name because it really is just that. It's a blank canvas for you to create content for your students to interact. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in and get started. When you first log in, your screen, it may or may not look like this in terms of the courses that I have. So I've been doing a bunch of tutorials lately for teachers. So I made, you can see I've got a handful of demos, just blank, courses that I've made named demo. And to create a course, you just simply hit start a new course. You can give it a title and go. If you are in a district or in an education institution, I would imagine, at least it's the way it worked in my district, when I was using it, your students and your courses may already be preloaded into there. So that may be something you don't actually have to do. You most likely will not have to hit start a new course. The first time you log in, you'll probably see all of your courses. And if you've had the option to use Canvas for a few years, you might actually see more courses than you need or that you have right now. You might have some old courses as well. So the first step is going to be just a little bit of cleanup. You really only want on your dashboard what you need. So the courses you're going to use Canvas for, the courses that you have in the current school year, and what you want students to actually be able to interact with. So the way we're going to do that, on the left side here, on this left pane menu, we're currently a dashboard. That's kind of the default. That's where we go when we first jump into Canvas. Underneath that is courses. So if I click courses, it's going to show me a list of all my courses, and then I can click all courses, and then it'll take me to the course page. Now on the far left, you'll see all of these orange stars. If I hover over that, you can see it says click to remove from the course menu. So what I'm going to do is click on the stars on everything except what I want to show up and what I want to use right now, which is going to be essentially getting rid of everything but the course that I created for this purpose. So if you've got 3 preps and you're going to be using Canvas for just one of those preps, and you go into Canvas for the first time and you've got 3 years worth of courses for all 3 of your preps, but you're only going to be using Canvas for one of those courses this year, I would go ahead and clean it up. Just make it simpler for yourself, simpler for students. Then students won't see it either. You can clean it up and only show what you need. This page in particular doesn't have anywhere to click save. Lots of pages when you're creating content do, but this one, just once you click them, that happens. So if I go back to dashboard, you'll see that now we only have that one course that we left starred. So I'm just going to click onto the course. If you've never been in, this is what it will look like. It's going to default to modules as your home page. You can see we're on home, but it's asking me to add a module or create a module. So the defaults modules is the home page, but we're not going to worry about that yet. The first thing we're going to do, continuing with the cleanup and the setup, making everything nice and neat. We have another menu on the left here now, and at the very bottom of that menu, we have settings. And in the settings, we can do a handful of things. You can choose an image that will show in the dashboards. Like I said, we'll jump back out there in a minute. So I'm going to pick an image that I had kind of pre-made. I was a math teacher when I was in the classroom, so I found a cool math image online. So this is now going to show up on the dashboard. I'll jump out and show you that in a minute. There's some other course detail information. It's not really, in most cases, it's not going to be necessary for you to edit or change any of that. Your institution will probably have already taken care of some of that. But again, this is very high level, so I don't want to get too into the weeds there. Sections, again, your institution probably has this taken care of for you. This is where you'll have your sections and your students. I don't have any students assigned to me, and I created this just for demo purposes, so I don't have anything here to show you. There's a couple, these last three tabs is where some things can actually be done that I'm going to want you to at least spend a little time looking at and making some decisions. So first one, in navigation, this is going to allow you to choose, in some instances, what you see, what you and students see, in some instances, just what students see. So you can clean up the menu a lot. There's a lot of options here. You may not have all of these. The district that I'm working under right now has preloaded some extra things. So these last like 8 things probably won't show up for you, but all of these will. And these aren't all things that I'm necessarily going to use, and I would definitely recommend start small. Just pick a couple of the tools, use those, get good with those, and then if you want to explore and add other things later, you can do that. Another thing to note is hiding them from the menu doesn't necessarily take them away from your ability to use them. So like if I were to disable, just by clicking these 3 dots, assignments, it's going to take assignments out of the menu, but I can still embed assignments in other places, and students can still interact with assignments. They just wouldn't be able to get to the assignment page. And I'm kind of in the practice of hiding as much as I can. And if I ever need to get something back, I can just reverse that process. I go to the bottom, I can click on those dots and re-enable it. You can also click and drag from one area to the other, and that's going to disable all of these. So I'm going to take a second and disable pretty much everything except what we're going to use for the purpose of this tutorial. So we're going to use modules, so I'm going to leave that. We're also going to use quizzes, but I'm going to go ahead and disable it. I'll still be able to create quizzes, still be able to interact with them, and students will as well. It just won't show up in the menu. Same thing with files. Probably going to go into files, but it just won't show up in the menu now. Grades, we can still use grades. It's just not going to show up in the menu. And I'll leave these, and we can also move them around and change the order that they appear. So I'll leave it like this. So students now are only going to see these 4 options whenever they go into the course. I'm going to make sure I click save. And then I'm going to jump back out to the home page and just make sure that this worked. So one of my favorite buttons in Canvas, student view. I'm going to click student view. It shows me what students would see. So see, they don't see all of that big mess now. Now there are a couple things that I did want to leave that aren't showing up, like modules and announcements. I left those, but right now they're not showing up for students. We didn't make a mistake. That's just because there is no content in modules or announcements yet. So if there's no content, it's not going to show up for students. Later, once we create content there, we'll jump back and you will see that those do appear. So I'm going to leave student view and go back into settings because we still had a couple tabs to look at. So jumping back into settings, I'm going to navigate over to apps. And apps are things like third-party resources that can integrate into Canvas. So you can see that there are lots of options. Some of these are free, some of them are not. Some of them you may already have login information for through your district that you may be able to use. Sometimes you might need a code for that resource. You could contact whoever at the institution, and they may be able to provide that for you. But adding something is pretty simple. Like I know Vimeo is a free one, so I'm going to add Vimeo real quick. You just click on it, add app. You can give it another name if you want. I usually leave them the same. This app was added successfully. So now Vimeo, see installed apps. These are ones that were already preloaded, and now Vimeo is in there as well. And a little later, I'll show you where and how you can integrate and use these. So that's apps. You can search for things by name if you're curious, or you can just scroll through. And then the last part of settings is going to be this feature options. Depending on how your institution has things set up, you may or may not be able to control some of these. You can see some of them I don't have access to do anything with. But there's only a couple in here that I want to point out and show you. The first one is going to be this RCE enhancement, so rich content editor. The rich content editor is where you're going to interact with and create content in lots of the tools here. And there's two different versions of that rich content editor. There's the default version, and then you can turn this on, and then there's a second version. I would encourage you just use the default one. Get used to that or see that. Come in here, flip this on, see if you like this version better. If you don't, you can always jump back in and turn it back to the default. And then the second one is this quiz log auditing. When you're in quizzes and students are taking quizzes, you'll actually set a quiz up by question. You'll create multiple questions, and this quiz log auditing is going to capture lots of data while the students are actually taking that quiz. So it will show you things like, this student started and worked on number 1 and 2 for 4 minutes, and then left the screen for 5 minutes, and then came back, did 3, 7, went back and did 4, left the screen for 5 minutes. Just lots of really good data that you may or may not need depending on your situation and how you're using Canvas, whether you're using it remotely or you're using it in the classroom. Totally up to you whether or not you want to collect it, but that option is there. So that kind of wraps up, again, the high level view, and I know it's still maybe a lot for some, but kind of the high level view of settings and some of the things that you're going to want to at least consider before diving in and really creating content. So I'm going to go back to the home page now, which again, the default home page was modules. I always left it as modules, and I'll explain why I do that in just a minute. All right, so the first thing that I want to do is actually just create a module. And so I like to think of modules in Canvas like folders. They're just how we organize content that we create. Modules themselves aren't going to have the content that students are interacting in, but it's where we can store and organize how students are going to interact and what content students are going to interact with. So once I've created a module, you'll notice we still can't see modules here. That option still isn't there, and that's because we haven't actually published anything. So modules is up, modules is ready to be published, so we just need to do that. So we're going to do it in a couple different ways. The first thing that I want to do is actually publish the course itself. So this right menu isn't part of modules. This is going to be part of whatever your home page is. So I'm going to go ahead and publish my course. And then once I've published the course, I'm going to publish the first module just by clicking this little gray area with the circle here. Now we see the green check, it's published. So now if I jump back into student view, we see modules in the menu, and we actually see that module that we created. And again, there's nothing in it. It's just an empty folder right now, but we have created that first module. So now I'm going to go back. I'm going to leave student view and create some content to actually put in there. So some things we're going to look at today. We're going to look at how to create an assignment, how to create a quiz, how to use and how to use discussions in Canvas. Those are going to be kind of the three big ideas. So I want to add an assignment. Even though I haven't created any assignments yet, I can go ahead and add an assignment to modules just by, so here's all the things we can add to the module. I'm going to add an assignment. I don't have any, so I'm going to click new assignment, make something up, assignment 1, add item, and now I have an assignment added into my module. I'm going to add a couple other things as well. I'm going to add a discussion. I don't have any discussions yet, but I can make a new one right here. Discussion 1, and I'll make a quiz as well. I don't have one yet, but again, I can add one. Quiz 1. We can do some organizing. Clicking the 3 little dots, we can give it an indent. We could go back and edit. Click edit. It will actually take me into the discussion to edit. We can move them around, duplicate it, remove it. I'll talk a little later about what Commons is, but that's kind of going to be the next level of usage, not necessarily that first level that we're focusing on right now. All right, so now I've set up my module. We could go ahead and publish them if we want, but we haven't actually created any content in them. I'm going to go ahead and click publish now, just so that I can jump into student view and show you now what that would look like for students. So now the student could come in and they could see, all right, week 1, I've got this assignment, I've got this discussion, and I have this quiz that I need to get done. So, and that's really it, at least the basics and how you can set up your module. Again, it's just like a folder where you're putting your files and organizing your content. So I'm going to jump into assignment, and we're going to actually add some content to this assignment together. So when I click on that assignment, you'll see we have nothing here. We haven't created any content at all for this yet. So I'm going to click edit, and here's where we're going to start adding and creating that content. So earlier I mentioned the rich content editor. Here is the rich content editor, and here are all of the ways that I can create and interact with content in that rich content editor. So we have some basic text editing tools that you'll see, and then we have what makes it kind of the rich content editor. It takes it to that next level. It's not just adding text and instructions. So you can add and create a table. You can insert and embed media. You can apply links to text. Like if I have some text and I want students to be able to click on it and go to some kind of URL, I can link that in. Remove the link. We can embed images for all my math teachers out there. Create some equations. This is a fantastic tool. Has nearly everything that you would ever need to create anything in the math world. Another link to Commons, again, skipping that for now. YouTube, you can find some videos from YouTube to insert or embed. And then here's where we're going to see some of those apps that we had. So here's some of the ones that were already added. Scroll to the bottom, I can see Vimeo, the app that I added. So any app that you add that can be used in the rich content editor is going to show up in here, and you can integrate some of that content straight into the rich content editor. You can also record media directly into here. Now, I will say there is a pretty small limit on the file size. So if you're doing a video, it's going to have to be a pretty short video. You can do just audio as well, which obviously could be a little bit longer than the video, but I want to say it's like a 500 megabyte limit. So like if you're doing like a 10-minute tutorial video, that's going to be a little much. But you can record it outside of Canvas and then embed that video back into Canvas. And then one other way that you can interact with the rich content editor, it's not part of this menu, but over here on the right, you can add links to other things that you have created in Canvas right into the rich content editor. You can upload files directly from your computer. So I'll show you, had some things here. So chose that file, upload. It's going to, if you upload it as, so I was trying to upload an image. If you upload a file, it's just going to give you a link to that file. So now the students could click that link. The file is actually stored in files in Canvas, and it will open it up for them. But if you want, and you're embedding like an image and you want the image to actually show up, then you can do it on this next tab, Images. You'll see here's the two different things that I've added. I added this earlier today for the course, for the course image, and then here's the one that I just added. So if I do it from here, it's going to actually embed that image into the rich content editor. So when students go to the assignment, they won't have to click. They'll actually just see, that image. And then the last part of this that's really important, we can actually check the accessibility of what we have created. So it will probably alert me of something because I have an image with no alt text right now. Yeah, so issue 1 of 1, image file name should not be used as the alt text. So the great thing is, if you're not really sure what accessibility requirements are, Canvas is going to check it for you. And then you'll also see that it's describing for me what the issue is and then giving me the option to fix it right here. So I'm just going to say Ben Franklin's Join or Die cartoon. Apply. Now we have that alt text. Now we have no issues there. So what I can do now, scroll down and kind of set up how students are going to interact with this. I can assign it a point value. So let's say I'm just be stereotypical 100 points here. I can assign it to a group. Depending on how your system is set up, like if one of the great things about Canvas is that Canvas will sync grades from Canvas into your school's SIS, the student information system. Like if you have something like Skyward, which I'm in Florida, and Skyward is pretty big all around Florida. And if it can sync into your student's information system, it's a great resource, but there's a few things you'll have to make sure happen in order to do that. One of those is your assignment group has to match your category in your student information system. So in your student information system, if you have an assignment category named classwork, the assignment group in Canvas must be classwork as well so that it can find it and import that in. And to do that, you can just hit new group. It'll let you create a new group right here. How students are going to see their grade, if it's going to count towards a final grade or not, if you're using Canvas for grades, if you're not using Canvas for actually distributing grades out to students and collecting and housing that data, that's not a big deal. How students are going to submit. So online, I have a few options. So I'm going to have them give me a text entry. Let's just say I didn't give any instructions. We could give some instructions for this assignment. This early cartoon, political cartoon. Again, not a social studies teacher. By Ben Franklin. Blah, blah, blah. We'll get to a question there, and then we're going to have them respond via a text entry. So we can click text entry. You got some more options. Again, if you're going to have it go into your student information system, sync that grade automatically once you grade it, you'll have to click this button, sync to SIS, who you're assigning it to. If you want to give it a due date, Again, going back to syncing to a student information system has to have a due date if you're going to do that. And then when students can see it and when it will be available. So students will be able to work on this assignment after the due date as long as the available until date is past that due date. So they can work on it in any window of this available from, available until, even if it's past the due date. But it will alert you and tell you if they did it at a date, after April 3rd, but it would still have to be before the end of April 9th, because that's when it would kind of go away from students. So once I'm done, I like everything I have here. I can click save. And now we're going to see our assignment here. Once this assignment has gone out, students have done the assignment, and I'm ready to look at the responses that students have given me. So I'm going to click SpeedGrader. We'll go back for just a second. That was this button right here near the top right. It actually opens up another window. So you see it jump into another window here, or another tab. And no students have done it, but you'll see the student name at the top right, the name of the assignment, and then you will see that student's response. You can give that student a grade. All right, the student got it, 100. You can give them a comment, great work, good thoughts, whatever comment you want to give them. Submit that. Once you're done, you can go to the next student. I don't have any students here. And kind of work through, and this is going to assign grades to each of them. When you're done and you've hit submit, you just close that, and that has all been graded. So that's kind of it for assignments. Again, make sure that you have published it. You can publish it here. You can unpublish it as well, or back on the home page where we created the assignment. We just want to make sure that we have the green circle with the check, and not the kind of grayed out box. So that's really it for assignments. You give them content to interact with. There's not a lot of ways that they can interact with that content in assignments. To be a little more detailed and have a little more options is where quizzes comes in handy. So I'm going to jump into quiz. Again, this is the one I created earlier. There's no content yet. You'll notice we have the SpeedGrader. So once we're done and students have taken it, we can do that SpeedGrader. Moderate this quiz. This is going to allow you to change some of the settings you're going to set up on an individual student basis if you need to later. Like if a student needs to try it again, you would be able to give that student another attempt. You could make adjustments to scores and things like that. So I'm going to go back to the quiz and edit. At first, it's going to look very similar to the assignment. And the first part of it is the rich content editor is exactly the same. We can link in other links, files, and images into the rich content editor. The settings are pretty similar, whether it's graded, ungraded, survey, assigning it to that assignment group. Same rule applies. The group has to match your SIS category. You can sync it to your SIS. And then here's some quiz specific settings. So if you want to shuffle the answers, what that means is we're going to set up some questions, and some of the options that we have to set up questions are things like multiple choice, multi-select, matching, things that are going to show things to students. And you can actually shuffle the order that those things pop up for students. If you want to give them a time limit, if you want to allow multiple attempts, which attempt you want to keep. And then this is really important, especially if you're going to allow multiple attempts, whether or not they can see their own responses at the end, if they can see the correct answers at the end. So I'm going to say only after their, or actually I'm just going to uncheck it. I'm not going to let students see the correct answers. That way they can retake it and rework on it more times if they need to. Let students see their own responses. I'm okay with that. Show one question at a time. We could have them just show one question at a time or all the questions. You can have a code required. So students would be able to see it, but if they clicked on the quiz, they would have to enter a password in order to actually jump in. This is handy if like you're using this in the classroom and you've got it published, but you don't want students working on it until they're in the room. Then you can have that password posted in the room, and then they can't like just take it anytime throughout the day. And then the same assignment options here. So we can give it a due date and an available from date. Just picking some random dates here. We could save. I'm not going to click save yet because I want to go ahead and now jump into questions and create some questions. So again, we have the same rich content editor, but now you'll notice we have the option to create lots of different types of questions. So I could create a multiple choice question, matching, numerical answer, fill in the blank, everything except essay question and file upload. Canvas is going to automatically grade for you. So if I created a multiple choice question, I put in my question, whether it's an image of a question from somewhere else or I create the question myself. I'll set up what that multiple choice is, click which one my correct answer is, and then when students go through and take the quiz or take, if you don't use it as a quiz, however you use it, it will automatically grade that for you. You can still go into SpeedGrader and look at it, but it will automatically grade that item for you. You can assign a point value to that question, and you can do this for each question. So if you want some questions weighted heavily or more heavily than others, then you can do that as well. You can create a fill in the blank. Something that I really like about fill in the blank, well, I guess I really like, and then also you have to be careful with, you can set up multiple possible correct answers. So where you would need to really pay attention to that is things like case sensitivity and punctuation. All of that matters. So if I have if I create a question and this is the answer, 1,234, and this is the only possible answer that I create, and a student answers it without the comma, just answers it like this, but I don't take the time to set this up as another possible correct answer, it will mark that student wrong. So you could either catch that in SpeedGrader and correct it, add the points back yourself, or if you're using fill in the blank, you can just set up a couple different possible correct answers. Totally up to you, but it is certainly something to be aware of. With this, I would just encourage you to jump in, pick the question type, see the options that you have, play around with it, see what you like. A couple really important things. You want to make sure you click, also on fill in the blank or really anything, if you have any possible answers that you leave blank, if a student gives a blank answer, it's going to count it correct. So make sure you don't leave any blanks there. I'm going to hit update question. I'm going to click save, and now this quiz is saved. Again, I could go to SpeedGrader once students are done. A lot of it's going to be automatically graded unless I only did file upload and essay response. If I use the other options, it's going to automatically grade all of that for me. So I'm going to jump back home. And then there's one more item that I want to get into here, especially if you're doing remote learning. I think this is a great tool. The discussion board. So here's the discussion we created. There's nothing on it yet. It's blank content. So we can go in and edit it. Discussion 1, we could give them some kind of prompt, hello class, and then give them some kind of question or an image or a video, something, something to react to. Maybe this time I'll insert a video of YouTube. Trying to jump around on content a little bit. A math image and then the social studies. So actually, I think I've seen this video before. So we'll have them watch this short video on the law of conservation of energy, and then we're going to have them respond in some way to that video. And then I can choose how students are going to interact. Do I want to allow threaded replies? A student can reply, and then another student replies to that student, and kind of goes on and have some conversation. Let's say I want that, but I also want students, they have to give their own original post before they can see all the other replies, and then they can kind of get in and get involved on that conversation. I'm not going to assign a grade to this one. Do I want to allow them? Yeah, sure, I'll allow them to like. Only graders can like, so I would be the grader, so I could go in and like things. I don't want to sort by likes, don't want to create any issues there, and I'll just plan on liking everything. And then if it's a group discussion or not, you could choose who those groups are. That's, again, getting a little more into the weeds. I would just using and setting up separate groups in Canvas is, again, kind of that next level of use. So I'm going to click Save. And then, so now we have hello class, here's our video. If I put in some kind of question, they would have that. So discussion's pretty straightforward. So I'm gonna go back home, and now I have a week set up for students. So as long as I have everything published, a student would come into this course, they would see, oh, I've got this assignment, I'm gonna get this assignment done, I've got this discussion that I need to participate in, and then I have this, this quiz to take. If you wanted to set up multiple modules in advance, you can do that. So I could create another module, and something I really like about this is I can give it a prerequisite so that I can create a bunch of content all at once, but I know students are going to complete the content in the order that I want them completing the content. So students are going to have to finish everything in week 1 before they get into anything that I add into week 2. So I just want to show you a couple other little things real quick. I'm going to jump into grades on the menu. Remember, we disabled that, so it's not in the student view, but we can still see it and use it. So here's that one arbitrary kind of assignment that I gave. So here's where you would see all your students and the grades that they got, and then averaging all those grades together. I never really used the grade book for what students were interacting with and how it was averaging and getting their grades. I used the student information system for that. And so that's really the main reason I came into Gradebook, is there's one more step you'll have to take if you're going to have Canvas post grades into your student information system. So in your Gradebook, under Actions, you would click Sync to Post Grades. And then everywhere where you have a grade, something that is eligible to post in, it will pop up. I never clicked Sync to SIS on any of those assignments or quizzes that I created, so I don't have anything eligible. But that's where and how you would do that. So I'm going to jump back back to the course, back to the home page of the course. In that rich content editor, we can add those files and images. But if you go into files in the menu, you'll see the images that we added already. You can actually pre-upload like bulk files and images and things you're going to use. So if you're already organized and you have a handful of PDF documents and images and things that you're going to use in Canvas, you can upload them all at once. And then when you're back in assignments or in quizzes, you would see those come up as options. And you wouldn't have to upload them individually one at a time each time you were uploading something. But that just really depends on your way of work. If you want to front load everything and upload it all at once now, or if, as you go, you upload what you need to upload. All right, so that kind of wraps up high-level overview here of Canvas. I by no means touched on everything. The goal here was at a bare minimum, how to get kids interacting with some content, interacting with each other a little bit, interacting with you as the instructor, and then having some kind of assignment that's going to allow for an easy use of data collection and monitoring student progress. And so that was the goal. Hopefully, I accomplished that. Thanks for hanging out and watching the video. Obviously, feel free to watch it again, slow it down, use different parts of it you need, and maybe there will be more of these in the future. But have a good one.